Hi and welcome back to the next video. In this video we are going to do some stuff in the advanced block project like you can see here. So like this will be our story, and the story is named video 30 because we are like continuing the stuff that we did on the first block project. And why we are like continuing the stories, because you can see it here. These are all till 29, story 29, were all stories we had been doing in the first block video series. And now I want to do some refactorings, change a bit of the stuff that we have like in the front end and in the back end. And so the old videos would become like obsolete. And so to still make them valid, I said, okay, I will let the old project stay like it is. And now I copied or I forked my old project. You can see it here, the block with nestjs and Angular project, to a new project that's called advanced block. And here you can see I had the last comments like named with video 28, video 27, video 29, I think something here. And so now we are in the advanced block project, and this will also get his own GitHub repository and his own GitLab repository that are synced. And this will be a fork of the old block project, and there we will just continue. So because when we later have a clean Git history where we can also in the advanced block project look up all the old commits that we made for these stories here, where we said, for example, video 29, and then what we did in the commit. And so we have a nice Git commit history later. So what we want to do in this video here, at first we have one circular dependency in our nestjs backend. And so the story is, as a developer, I want the circular dependency from the Auth.Module and the user module to be removed. And the acceptance criteria is very simple. The circular dependency should be removed and everything should be still working. So we get this here in doing our card, our story, and go to our code. So you can see here now we are on branch develop, and we have already init git-flow. So what we can do now is, since we work like with git-flow, we can switch to a feature branch. And so we can say git-flow feature start, and now we name it like our video. So we are now in video 30 or in video first from the advanced block project. And so we create a new feature branch based on the develop branch. And like you see, we have switched to our feature branch. So we can now cd into our API. We can start everything with npm run start dev. And we can on a second terminal cd into our front end and with nreserve start it. And so you can see here, the backend is starting in watch mode, and everything went as expected. And our front end is also running up. And we can also verify with Postman that all our requests are still going. So for example, you can make a GET request against our backend API for all the users that are there. And then we get a paginated object. So we have items, so the users and the links. We can add new users. We can, for example, log in, and here we have the body of a user that I have already registered, and we get a return and access token that holds everything that we need or checks that we are or authenticates us as a user. And here we have also our Angular front end, so we can go to localhost 4200, and here we have everything, and we could also log in and so on. And now if we go into our backend, like our story says, you can see that we have in our Auth.Module used forward ref for the user module, and we have also used this, I think, in our guards. We are using forward ref for the user service, and the same in our user service, or no, just here, because we have a circular dependency, because the roles guard is needing some stuff from the user service, and the user service is also needing some stuff from our out service, and so they are all dependent. And so you don't want a circular dependency in your application. So now we want to fix it. So the first thing that we can do is, for example, we can remove this forward ref here. And now if we save this, and we will remove it also from our guards. And from this guard here, then our backend, you can see, is failing. Because you can see here, if user service is a provider, is it part of the current module? So at the moment it's not there. So what we have to do, or what we would need to do, is in our Auth.Module register or import the user module. So because here we export the user service, but actually we don't want this, because then we have again our circular dependency. So there's like some stuff that we could do also. So we can again go with our console and our backend and generate a new service for our Auth.Module, where we can do some basic stuff for security, like login, like where we generate a token. We need a method where we validate the token and so on. And so we can move this better at the moment here, like creating a user where we have to hash the password, and where we rely for hashing the password on our Auth service, where we are using for logging in, we are generating a JWT with our Auth service, and for validating a user, we are comparing the password hashes with our Auth service. So we have to move them here out of the user service and to our user security service that we will now create in our Auth.Module. So then we can remove them from here, move them just into our other module, and we don't have just to make some fixes to our controller, but then everything should be working. So to do this in our Auth.Module, we have to add the typeorm module, because we want to access now in our Auth.Module also the user entity. So we say for feature, and we add here all the entities that we want to work with in this module. And in this module, this should be the user entity. And we have to make a comma here. And then we can cd into our API folder. We can cd into our source folder. We can cd into our Auth.Module. And here we can say or use the nest.js schematics and generate a simple service. So we say nest generate service. And now we can call it, for example, user security. And then this will create for us a user security service here. Let's see. And you see here we have a user security, and we can move this into services. And we can also make here a new folder for our Auth service. So we can call this out. 1 second, what's wrong here? Out. And then we can copy and paste, or we can move the Auth service into this folder, and we have like a better structure. So you see now we have it here as injectable, so it is already here as our provider, our user security service. And so we can use it here. And what we also want to do is we want to export it, because we will later, or we will import this also in our user module. And so you can see we are importing here our Auth.Module, and before we were also already importing here also the user module, what we are not doing now, because then we would have again the circular dependency. So what we need to do now is we want to move the stuff from our user service that belongs normally in the Auth.Module, and to remove the circular dependency, we want to be removed from here and add to our user security service. So the functions that we want to have are, we want to create a user, because here we are hashing the password. So this is something from our Auth.Module. So we move this here to our security service. We later import everything. Then what we also need is to find one. So this we are just copying because we need it in both modules. Then we need the login function, because this will also generate a JWT. And what we need is the validate user, where we compare two passwords. And verify that this is actually the user. And so now we have removed them all from here, and the find one is double. And then we can inject, also we need the user repository also in our user security service. So we can add here a constructor and add here the user repository. So we want to import the injected repository from type ORM, our own user entity. We want to import repository. We are also working with observables with our user interface. And now we have to import all the operators from AXJS that we need. So catch error, throw error, and now we have to import also here our out service. So this is the service that is lying here, and that is doing like generating a JWT, hashing a password, and comparing two passwords. Now we can see if everything here is not having an error. And so we can see we are not finding user role, so we import it, and then all the errors from this file are gone. So now this is also already done. And the next stuff that we need to do is, at the moment, all the endpoints in our user controller are trying to go against our user service, but the user service is not having the create function or the login anymore. So they are all now in our different module in our security service. So now we just have to provide here the user security service from the user security service, and have to change it everywhere where we need it. So we want to create, we want to log in, and this should be all. So now you can also see we can remove the out service from here because we don't need it anymore. And we can go through our guards and check that everything here is working. So you see now in our roles guard, we don't need the user service anymore. Because then you would have again the circular dependency. So what we need here is our user security service, because we are here using the find one, and this is already also specified in our user security service. So we import it and we change it up, and then this is working again, and the same we have to do here. So it's the user security service that we want. And this here is of course also named user security service. And we change it here, user security service, find one, everything is working fine. So now you can see we have made here a new user security service that is using or having all the functions: find one, validating a user, logging in, and creating a new user. And with the type-orm module for feature, this is being used for the user entity at the moment here. So this module here also has access to this type-orm module for feature for the user entity. And we are exporting our out service, but we don't need it. So we just need to export our user security service. And let's add here before we user security service. And then we can see here in our user module, we are importing the whole Auth.Module. This means that in this scope for the user module, also all services that we exported here are now available in our user scope, in our user module scope. So we can now check if it compiles without an error. Let's go to the bottom and let's restart it. But this here already seems fine. So let's wait a bit. And this seems quite good. So we can see if I hit reload here, we have our front end, we see all our things. We can also log in. Let's, for example, say I want to log in with this account here. Password ASD. Then I could, for example, update my own profile. You see here now my data is loaded, my profile image, my name, my username, whatever I want to do. And we can already or also log in here again, and you see we get an access token returned. So we first compare the passwords, verify that there's actually a user. So here, if I log in, we will hit the controller on the endpoint log in here. So you see it here, API users log in. Then we use our user security service to log in, where we first validate the user here, where we find the user by email, and then we are comparing the passwords, and if they match, we are returning the user. If not, we will throw an error. So if then this validating user returns the user, so this here, if this here returns with match the results of the user, then we use our out service here to generate a valid JWT with the payload user, so my own user object. So for example, if I would copy this here, I could go to jwt.io. I could copy the whole JWT, and now you see we have all our three parts: the red, the purple, and the blue one. And you see this is the hashing algorithm. The purple one is the payload, so my user object. So I'm the user with ID 7, my name, my username, my email, my role, the link to my, or the name of my profile image with the ending, when was it issued, and when will it expire. So here Wednesday 25th at midnight, or later than midnight. And this is here you get the secret, and then you would have a valid signature. So if you're interested how anything here was done, you can always go to the old repository or the old video series. You can always find it here in Readme. There are the links, and here will also be added the link to the next YouTube playlist for this project here. Here you have also instructions how to run the project. So we are always having commits that's like prefixed with the video and the number. So from the story, so you can go to any story you like. So if you want to run the project, you have to go to branche where are the latest changes. You have to add an environment file to your API. So I have it here, and there you have to enter your database URL and your JWT secret. And if you want to know how this was done, you can go to the first videos here that are linked, or the JWT secret. This would be like an example, and here are the commands how to start the backend, how to start the front end, or the E2E tests, and so on. So now that we are done and verified that everything is still working, we can stop our running backend and our running front end, and we can now commit our changes. So we can say git add upper A. So we commit all, and we give it a message. So video 30, and then our message is removed circular dependency from our nest.js backend. So Auth.Module and user-module created a new user security service that is handling login, validating, and what are we doing? Login, validating, and creating. Then we can push our branch. So we could, for example, set here now our upstream branch. And now we can check against our user story. So we can see here we have just the acceptance criteria that our circular dependency is removed and everything is still working. So this is done. So we can move this to doing or to done, and everything is finished. So what we can do now is we can say git-flow feature finish, and this will merge our feature branch back into our develop branch, and then we can update it all. So